Give everyone a little bit of time to get in here. See if anything's going on in the world. Mike Lindell lost his primary challenge. Although I think Klobuchar is going to win. She's the only one with any name recognition. And if anybody thinks AOC is attractive, she is on the market. She's freezing her eggs and is no longer with her man. Which, if she plans to run in 2 years, she better get married pretty quick. A little bit more time.
Come with me as I...
All right, let's get into this. This is somebody tries to recreate Hank Hill's steak.
The perfect steak.
From King of the Hill.
I'm going to be using a lean cut of New York strip. I was just kidding. I'm not on a diet. Obviously, we'll be grilling a ribeye.
Let's go, Hank. You know what's good.
Some people like to use garlic powder or onion powder, but personally, I think you should leave the powder in the ladies' cosmetics aisle. All you need is a little salt and pepper. Now, make sure your
Actually, I hope they do more of, like, this type of shit.
grill is nice and hot. It only took...
And this video's trash. I'm sorry, this video is trash. If it's not a propane grill, that's like Hank Hill's whole thing. He sells propane accessory. And if, in Hank Hill's world, charcoal is worse than crack. Even though charcoal does give a nice, rich, smoky flavor. All right, Italian pasta. Okay, olive oil. I don't know what kind of pepper that is.
Queste letture super... Ho chiesto alla ragazza, l'ho preso l'acciaino, grazie.
I have no idea what they said. Tomatoes. Assuming he's going to slice them. Yep, slice them in half. little flambe action. Assume this is Grana Padano cheese. Alright, cheese is down. And we'll set that right over there. So he's going to chop the basil. Hello, DeJuice. No, that was a different video. This guy doesn't talk during his videos, so one kind of bleeds into the other. Yeah, Peggy Flanagan won. I don't know if she's going to win the seat. But yeah, she won. Mike Lindell lost. He's refusing to concede, but it's like, dude, you lost by 11 points. Like, there's no point in a recount. Just call the winner and succeed. Klobuchar won the Democrats' gubernatorial nomination. I don't know if she's going to win. But she is the only of the two candidates. She's the only one with name recognition because I don't know who the fuck the Republican chick is. Now I don't know what the hell he's doing. This is not coming together. Better be damn near done cooking. Well, actually, they did have a bit of talking. It's he doesn't speak English. And the vast majority of people that do YouTube speak English. Well, except whatever language they speak over in India. this dish? I mean, I know it's pasta, but... Alright, touch more oil. Touch more water. Why didn't you just crush these before you put them in? Alright, just gonna skip to the end. Alright, looks like we got the cheese in. It's getting nice and creamy. Dude, how are Italians not all 600 pounds considering the amount of pasta they eat? Okay. Let's learn how to make some bologna.
Before the break, you said lunch was when you first started feeling different from the other children.
Well, I wouldn't say different. They just had Lunchables, chips, and little desserts. Sometimes their mom was putting oats in there.
Little shit next to you at school opens up a Lunchable. But after a heavy layer of seasoning, a few hours of smoke, and a hard sear in the skillet, this isn't going to taste like any type of bologna that came out of your childhood lunchbox.
That's a hell of a thick slice of bologna.
Hey there, I'm Joe, and this is Fork and Embers, the barbecue channel where we spend adulthood fixing the foods that our parents fucked up. And bologna has had one hell of a fall from grace. It had an ancestor that was so well respected that in 1661, there was a cardinal that actually created rules controlling how it could be made. Which honestly is probably the least disturbing example in history of a cardinal taking an interest in someone's sausage. Now, fair warning. Once you've had a chub like this, you're going to be hard-pressed to find one that satisfies you in the same way. Now, there's a shit ton of history behind bologna, and honestly, it's hard to fit it in all at once. So the deeper historical dive is over on my Patreon, along with the sources, because my wife was a history teacher for 10 years, and she'd give me a lot of shit for leaving those out. Also, head over to my website, forkandembers.com, and you will find the recipes. So now that we've got the low-hanging dick jokes out of the way, let's take bologna to a whole nother level. All right, first thing you'll need to do is obviously get you a bologna chub. They're pretty easy to find. I will give you a tip. Don't go to Kroger or some deli and try to buy you a chub of bologna because they're gonna sell it to you by the pound at like $8.99, right? You need to find a place that's selling them by the chub. I found this one at my local butcher. Now, the first thing you wanna do with a bologna chub when you go to smoke it is score it. Now, I'm not...
You know, that's one thing I don't think I've ever seen in any meat shop. Not that I'd ever buy a chub of bologna, but I don't think I've ever... Maybe it's because he's a southerner and I'm a northerner.
I'm gonna tell you that this is 100% you've got to do this, but I do think it helps allow the rub stick better. And also you gotta understand that this thing is already cooked. So a lot of smoke penetration is not gonna really happen. You're gonna get some, but it's not like it's a uncooked piece of meat that's gonna take on a ton of smoke. So scoring it, when you cook it, it'll actually kind of spread open and it allows smoke not only to get this outer edge, but also down into those score marks. And it just looks a hell of a lot sexier. You can use a razor. I use this knife here. What I like to do is kind of a crosshatch pattern. Pretty simple. The reason I got my thumb like this is so I can gauge about how deep I'm going, because I don't like really deep gashes. And it's hard to keep up with where it's at, so I like to take my thumb here and I'll do another one like so. And that's all you'll do, and you'll do that all the way around it. Now the story of this thing actually starts in Bologna, Italy with mortadella, believe it or not. Traditional
Mortadella is delicious.
mortadella is not this really cheap lunch meat shit that we grew up eating. But it was a well-respected sausage that was made out of finely ground meat, and it had these big white specks of fat in it throughout it. You can see it. And the seasonings that were used to make it were very carefully controlled, actually. And mortadella may have went all the way back to ancient Rome, but historians are pretty split on where the name came from. There's one theory that the name came from the mortar that they used to kind of create the finely ground meat. Another theory is that it came from myrtle, which is an herb that the Romans would use to make sausage. And by 1661, mortadella was so well respected that there was a cardinal named Farnese, and he created rules for how mortadella could be made. It was a protected regional specialty. And exactly how mortadella came over to the US and became this shit that we know today, American bologna, well, that history is a little, kind of murky. And at first, when it does reach over here, people start calling it Bologna sausage. And Bologna was just referring to any sausage that was made in that style that they would make there, right? And over time, Americans, they shorten that shit to bologna. And even though bologna carries an Italian name, the sausage making skills and traditions that would actually shape the American bologna that we know would actually come from the German immigrants that were settling in places like Pennsylvania, the Midwest, Appalachia, Ohio, hell, all throughout the country, and they would bring with them their sausage making skills. And these sausage making traditions, they would obviously get mixed with the Italian name bologna and these different American ingredients, and also the ingredients throughout
Thank you, Germans, for the invention of the bratwurst.
the different regions, because everyone in these regions likes something a little bit differently. That's why you're going to end up with foods that are completely different from one another being called bologna. Pennsylvania, they had something called Lebanon bologna. And then you got the Midwest, they have ring bologna. Hell, some people would pickle it, some people would fry it, some people smoked it, and some bologna was made out of beef and pork, which is what this one is. This one is actually beef and pork. So what you want to do here now is kind of, I'd say start about right here. Don't really matter. I go about as deep as the end of this knife, and you're going to want to roll. And it is hard to see where you stop. There it is. Perfect. So eventually this smooth grocery store style bologna that we have like right here in front of us would, become finely ground meat that was fully cooked sausage that was super cheap to make and very consistent. And companies could crank this shit out by the ton. So bologna may have an Italian name and came from Italy through an ancestor, but the shit that we grew up with, that real cheap stuff, it was heavily influenced by German immigrants, along with the American.
And a shit ton of processing and preservatives. Never forget the preservatives. Actually, I know it's horrible for me, but I've been craving fried bologna sandwiches again. I'm gonna have to make them. See if I can make a video out of it. Actually, I think I can.
Industry, which we'll talk more about. Perfect. And that's what you'll end up with right there. It looks the same to you on camera, but I promise you there are fucking scores there. All right, next thing we're gonna need to do is put a binder on this thing and then a rub, obviously. Now with the rub, we're gonna go relatively simple. You know, this is a lot of black pepper, smoked paprika, onion, garlic, a little bit of brown sugar, and ancho chili powder in there. Pretty simple, nothing complicated. We're also going to be using mustard and Worcestershire sauce as the binder. I like adding this because it gives a little bit more of a barbecue flavor, but also it thins out the binder because I don't
Oh God, I wish you wouldn't have singing music.
like how thick the mustard is on there. And it's okay if this runs down the side. We're doing it in this pail for a reason. I like to try to get down in there without splitting it. If you take your finger and you're trying to push down into those too much, you will, you know, push it and split it a little bit. Well, a little bit more, I think. Mustard. I don't know if I got enough on there. Hell, you could probably get it to stick if you leave it out at room temperature long enough, or it sweats a little bit. That rub will probably stick to it pretty good. Now, bologna is going to become one of the most common foods in America, mostly due to industrial meat packing. You know, these centralized slaughterhouses and these mechanical meat grinders.
Don't let Peter say this!
And refrigeration, transportation, and eventually meat slicers would allow these companies to make this uniform product very cheaply and allow them to be able to ship this stuff everywhere. You know, believe it or not, bologna also didn't require the best parts of animals, which means it was
No, it's ground. You could use anything.
a lot cheaper to make than ham, salami, turkey, and roast beef. And this mattered a lot during the Great Depression and wartime rationing, and pretty much any other time where people needed to take cheap meat and stretch as far as possible, which we
Yeah.
do talk about in the
That's one thing. If you ever in a pinch, bologna might not be the best for you, but it'll provide a nice meal for little of nothing.
meatloaf video. You know, very similar circumstances. You know, bologna would keep reasonably well, and it fed several people, and you could do more than just make sandwiches with it, right? Hell, they'd make skillet meals with it, and some people would just eat it cold out of the lunch pail. And at the same time, America was becoming, quote unquote, a sandwich eating country. In 1924, the New York Times would write this article that declared that the day of the sandwich had arrived. And what they were pointing at is, you know, more evenly sliced bread, but also these meat slicers that allowed you to evenly slice, you know, things like bologna, right? So stores could now sell.
I'm trying to remember if pre-sliced bread or sliced bread was a thing back in that point.
These evenly sliced pieces of bread along with uniformly
must
sliced
be.
bologna to customers, and they could take that shit home and make cheap lunches throughout the week to take to work and to school. And Oscar Mayer, they were kind of ahead of the game. You know, they had an advantage over everyone because they had this vacuum sealed packaging that they were doing, and it allowed bologna to keep a lot longer than that shit you would buy at the deli counter. Like, it wouldn't dry out. And by the 1960s, Oscar Mayer was kind of spreading throughout the country like wildfire, you know. And then in the
Hey, hot dogs are good.
early 1970s, they
They're horrible for you, but they're good.
actually come out with this commercial that blows up. It actually teaches generations of Americans how to spell bologna, even though the way we say it don't make a lick of damn sense.
'Cause Oscar Mayer had a way with biology and A.
It's funny, I was telling my wife this story and I mentioned the 1970s and then she started singing the song, BOLONGNA, you know. So by this time, bologna was much more than a product. It was really embedded.
Yeah, there's no where the hell does bologna come from? It's not even spelled that way.
In American childhood. I mean, this stuff would show up in brown paper sacks, school cafeterias, you know, factory workers would take it in their lunch pails, diners, soup kitchens, prisons, pretty much anywhere where you had a lot of people you needed to feed for as cheap as you possibly could. You know, some southern schools would actually take slices of bologna and fry it until the edges would curl up and they'd put mashed potatoes and cheese on the inside. I mean, that shit right there sounds pretty interesting. I'm in the South and we never had that, but I can't imagine it would be bad.
No. You're in the South? You're from the South? I would have never guessed that.
In 1942 to 1964, we had this Bracero program like the United States did. And what it was this an agreement with Mexico and the United States to bring agricultural workers over because, you know, in 1942, we got World War II. A lot of American men were off the war. And what they used to feed these people were bologna sandwiches. And guess what? They fucking hated it. They said it was dry, cold. They didn't like the bread in particular. They went from eating shit that was probably damn delicious to eating this, you know, just straight up bologna. I ain't a big fan of just straight bologna. The stuff we're making today is, you know, damn good, but just eating bologna on white bread, it does bring back childhood memories, but they're not exactly ones I want to relive. But throughout all of this, it gave two very different types of reputations to American bologna. You know, for some people, it meant family, childhood, and comfort. For other people, it meant poverty or prison or just eating the cheapest thing possible because you didn't have money for other stuff. Then by the late 20th century, things like turkey and other deli meats, they start becoming a lot cheaper and people start watching their fat and sodium intake. Then by the 1990s,
Which, if you're watching your fat intake or your salt intake, bologna is kryptonite.
sales for bologna is pretty much plummeting. I mean, it had gone from a protected sausage in the 17th century in Italy to now being the cheapest, most recognizable food in America. I mean, that's one hell of a fall from grace. But what I'll probably do, or what I am going to do, is I'm going to take this and
Yeah, I still like bologna. I don't eat it often, but like I said, I've had this hankering for a bit now for fried bologna sandwiches.
toss it in the refrigerator while we go outside and get the smoker rolling.
Okay, I'm skipping over the music.
Run the smoker anywhere from 250 to 275 Fahrenheit. The way we do that with the Weber Smoky Mountain is you fill the bottom chamber up about halfway with charcoal, unlit. Then you take about 4 or 5 briquettes, throw them in the chimney, light them, and toss them on the center of the unlit charcoal. This is called the minion method. We've used it 1,000 damn times. Now I'll take a couple chunks of wood, use whatever you got, don't overthink it. I have some oak wood that I've cut up into chunks. I use that, use about 2, 3, 4 chunks of it. After you toss the wood on, go ahead and put your cooking chamber on. And we're gonna leave the water pan in the cooking chamber, but don't put any water in it. We don't wanna add any more moisture to the cooking environment. Then throw your lid on, and you want this thing running about 250 to 275 Fahrenheit. For my smoker, I usually gotta close off most of the bottom vents, and I'll leave one of the vents open about 1/4 of an inch. I try to leave the top vent wide open, but if it starts getting too hot, I'll start choking it down as well. Once you're happy with 250 to 275 Fahrenheit, we can go ahead and throw the bologna on. And we'll let that smoke while we talk a little history. Now, some point in the 20th century, you're gonna have these cooks in Oklahoma that starts putting bologna chubs on the smoker. Now, nobody knows exactly who did it first. You know, there's no evidence that points to a specific person. You know, there's no agreed upon restaurant that did it first. Hell, there's not even an agreed upon time frame of when someone might have thought to put bologna on a smoker. Now, the Dust Bowl is
If I had to guess, probably somebody that was like smoking chicken, was drunk, seen an entire chub of bologna, was like, fuck it!
the Great Depression get brought up a lot because Oklahoma families were really experienced at taking super cheap cuts of meat and stretching it as far as they possibly could.
I mean, I can't tell you how many things I've thrown away just by experimenting. I threw a frozen pizza on my smoker, revved up the temp. It was horrible. It sucked. I've never once done smoked burgers. I've done them every which way. It's just, unless they're like fully cooked and I just throw them on for like 5 minutes, but I'd have to be smoking something else to justify that. You know, just to like maybe melt the cheese or something. I've tried to smoke burgers before. They taste terrible.
But even with that said, we don't have any hard evidence pointing to a specific person in place, right? What we do have, though, are generations of these Oklahoma pitmasters that are all saying the exact same thing, that they grew up eating smoked bologna. And the practical side of it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense because bologna's cheap, it's easy to find, and it's already cooked. So it's damn near impossible to ruin, but some of you will ruin it. Now, families in Oklahoma and these restaurants would already have smokers running.
Well, keep in mind also the ingredients to do the rub are incredibly cheap. Mustard is one of the cheapest things in the grocery store. Generally spices for rubs. You can buy a shit ton and they last forever, so very, very cheap. The most expensive thing you've used is Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire, whatever the fuck.
So it made sense for them to throw a bologna
English
chub
sauce I
because
can't
it didn't
pronounce.
require any extra fuel. You know, it didn't require any more labor, no more attention, nothing. It was complete upside. Keith Jemerson over at the Elmer's Barbecue, he kind of put it pretty simply. He said that smoked bologna was poor people's food because Oklahoma had a hell of a lot of poor people. And
Well, think about it. Why do you think chili is synonymous with firehouses? Because firefighters can be called at any time of the day, 24/7. They get hungry, and chili is something that is real quick to make, lasts a hell of a long time over a very low flame or in a crock pot, and is pretty damn transportable and will fill you up in a hurry. Especially if you have beans with it.
that's where names like the Oklahoma
And it has a ton of vitamins, ton of minerals, a lot of protein. Chili, believe it or not, I don't know why it gets kind of labeled as this semi-junk food. It's actually not. Especially if you make it out of like ground turkey or ground chicken. And I think white chicken chili is more unhealthy.
tenderloin, the Oklahoma prime rib, and the Oklahoma steak come from.
Yeah, the mustard calorie count is kind of irrelevant if you're going to smother it over a log of bologna. But yeah, this is something you could throw on the smoker, forget about it. You don't got to worry if the product is cooked properly because bologna's pre-cooked. And you could go back and do whatever the hell you want, come back, dinner time, slice that shit up, and everybody's happy.
You know, those names are mostly jokes, but there is a lot of affection behind those names. Because Oklahoma was taking one of the cheapest cuts of meat that you could possibly find, and they were treating it like real barbecue meat. And smoke changed bologna quite a bit. The outside darkened, that seasoning would set on the bologna chub, and a meat that the rest of the country would view as this cold lunch meat, really cheap shit, in Oklahoma was setting next to barbecued foods like ribs and sausage and brisket and other shit that came off the smoker. Speaking of the rub setting, after about 2 hours of this bologna being on the smoker, you should start to notice that rub is really starting to set in. Now for the last 30 minutes, it's optional, but I like to hit it with a barbecue mustard pickle glaze. Now making it is very simple. You don't even have to heat it up. Take you a half a cup of whatever barbecue sauce you like, mix it with 2 tablespoons of yellow mustard, 1 tablespoon of pickle juice, 1 teaspoon of W sauce, also known as Worcestershire sauce, and 1 teaspoon of hot sauce. Use whatever you want. Mix it up really well and then glaze that bologna with it. Now let's talk about how bologna went from a cheap food to an Oklahoma tradition. Now one of the most interesting parts of this entire story is the role that these Lebanese steakhouses in Oklahoma played in the history of smoked bologna. Now Lebanese immigrants, they would start to settle in Oklahoma.
Holy shit, my guy! Hold up.
In the history of smoked bologna. Now Lebanese
My guy, you can make 2 trips. You don't have to do it all at once.
These immigrants, they would start to settle in Oklahoma around the turn of the 20th century. Then as oil would start to bring money into places like Tulsa, you'd see these Lebanese restaurant owners start serving food that they would grow up with. And they would serve this food alongside the steaks that the Oklahoma residents was already expecting to be on the menu. One of the best known places was a place called Jamil's, and it was opened by a man named Jim Jamil Elias. And it was around the mid-1940s. Diners would get things like hummus, pita, cabbage rolls, and smoked bologna, and this would all be served before the steaks would even be brought to the tables. Now the
I'm already full!
best known Tulsa location would actually open in a converted house in 1957, and diners would actually walk through the front door into the kitchen, and there'd be a custom smoker there making things like ribs and smoked bologna. Now Jamil's actually would become known for selling liquor back when selling liquor by the drink was illegal, and over the years you'd have people like Muhammad Ali, Ray Charles, and Mickey Mantle, you know, people like that eating at this place, so it was a pretty big deal. Now there's no evidence that these Lebanese restaurant owners invented invented smoked bologna. But you can bet your ass they played a huge part in bringing smoked bologna to the food culture in Oklahoma, because they served it right along steak, barbecue, traditional Lebanese food, and they weren't treating it like it was this piece of meat that you needed to be embarrassed for ordering or eating, like the rest of the country was treating it.
Like I said, anything can be made delicious. I do truly believe that. Some things just require more work than others.
And by the late 20th century, smoked bologna had become a regular part of Oklahoma's barbecue culture. At a place called Elmer's Barbecue, it would show up on something called the Badwidge, next to ribs and chopped beef and a hot wing. Now, Joe Davison over at Oklahoma Joe's said that this shit wouldn't sell worth a damn in Kansas City, but if he took it off the menu in Tulsa, he'd be run out of business. And at a place called Burn Co., smoked bologna started as a special. You know, they didn't want to commit to doing it. But over the next couple years, customers just kept ordering it. For 2 years, they kept it as a special, until eventually they said, fuck it, let's just put it on the menu permanently. And
look, if it's been on the special menu for 2 years, it's not a special. That's a menu item.
they would go on to sell about 20 pounds of it a day. And that just goes to show you how regional this tradition of smoked bologna really was. You know, in some places, bologna and smoked...
Yeah, like I said, up here in Minnesota, which is odd because we have a large German population up here. We don't sell bologna by the roll. At least I've never seen it, except maybe at possibly Sam's Club.
Bologna still considered a novelty, but in Oklahoma, people grew up eating smoked bologna. If they went to a barbecue restaurant, they expected smoked bologna to be on the menu. In 2012, Food Network magazine voted the Senator's Smoked Bologna Sandwich at Jamil's as the sandwich that represented the state of Oklahoma the best. So with bologna, the story starts as a protected Italian sausage from Italy. Then you'd have these immigrant butchers in these American
Please say he's not having a mixed drink without ice.
factories that would turn it into this, you know, cheap shit that most people see bologna as. But then you get your Oklahoma pit masters that start throwing it on smokers, and they turn it into a barbecue identity in Oklahoma. Now, after about 3 hours, your smoked bologna chub should be done. This shit's already cooked, so there's no internal temperature you're looking for. Just take it off when it looks good. Mine looks pretty good. Now, this is not an upgrade to what we put on that smoker. I ain't sure what is. The thing is you can throw a whole
I'll be damned, he's not drinking this episode.
tub of bologna
That's bad.
on the smoker while you're cooking just about anything else, and it's going to do fine. It does good at low temperatures, does good at high temperatures. Very simple, idiot-proof piece of meat to smoke. Let's cut it open here, see what we're working with. I like taking that end piece off right there, and that's what I'll be taste testing. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. Smells amazing. That glaze has really tacked up nicely on there. Let's cut a piece off here. Wow, that's like little burnt in, hot dog burnt ends or something, you know, like, that's amazing. Hell lot better than the shit I grew up eating, I'm gonna tell you. We're gonna cut us some good thick pieces, because what we're about to do is make a sandwich that was made famous by Jamil's. And what you gotta do is get you a cast iron skillet, or hell, really, whatever you want. Just something that's hot. Now what you've gotta do is get you some butter, because we're gonna toast up some bread. Now, the sandwich they make at Jamil's, that Senator's smoked bologna sandwich I had mentioned, they're using like a pretzel bun. I like a good Texas toast bread, really, but use whatever you got. Like I said, bologna's supposed to be simple, not complicated. Now, what we're gonna start off with is we always toast our bread first. Toasting the bread is the easiest way to level up a sandwich.
Yeah, but I'd treat a fried bologna sandwich kind of like a grilled cheese.
Oh, also, where I'm from, it's not a sandwich, it's a sandwich. If you're from the South, you've probably heard as such. Now, I like to get this pretty hot, not
Well, I'm not. I'm from the north, so we know how to speak proper English here.
so hot that it burns, and you actually move them around quite a bit so you'll get a really even browning. You know, growing up, we never had no smoked bologna. Never knew you could smoke bologna. Well, hell, I reckon you can smoke anything. Look at that. Set this to the side here.
And growing up, I didn't know how easy it was to make your own pasta sauce.
Next, what we need to do is take some bacon, and we're gonna sear this off real Nice slice.
You'd think, unless he's gonna assemble the sandwich and he only toasted one side, so I don't know, maybe he's gonna toast the other side with everything assembled.
Now I've got some really thick cut, steak cut they call it, bacon. If you move it around, it'll cook a little bit more evenly. What I'm wanting to do is render that fat out of that bacon, because that's what we're gonna sear the bologna in. I mean, this stuff's some thick shit right here. It's like pieces of ham. What we can do is set this to the side, get that grease off of it. Let's get us a piece of bologna over here. Both of them pretty thick. Something a lot of people say when they're searing stuff off is they're like, set it in the pan, don't touch it. That's bullshit. If you move it around, stuff gets more evenly seared. Same with steak. If I'm cooking steak in a skillet, it gets moved around because it gets a
I don't agree with that, but with bologna, that should be fine.
lot more evenly cooked, or a lot more even Maillard reaction. And this is gonna take a few minutes, so maybe we'll do a clock wipe or something. Now at this point, after a couple minutes, you should have a pretty good even sear across it. It might even bubble up a little bit from the heat, and that's okay. With it being hot right off the smoker, it doesn't take long for that surface to get hot enough to sear, so be careful that you don't burn it. And I'm gonna take some of this barbecue mustard pickle glaze that we got and just paint it on there. That stuff's got a nice sweetness to it. It's tangy, it's got some really good acidity. I guess technically you could, instead of doing a barbecue sauce, you could do a ketchup if you wanted to go, you know, a lot cheaper, but I used a pretty cheap barbecue sauce. What I've got here is at my butcher shop, we've got Jim David jalapeno pimento cheese. And that's what Jamil says that they use is jalapeno pimento cheese. So that's what we're...
Can I ask you a question? How much did that cost? Because if it was more than $3, you should have just made it yourself. Pimento cheese is one of the easiest things on the planet to make.
We're gonna use here. You just wanna dollop that on there. Put as much as you want. It can easily get out of hand if you do too much.
And don't get me wrong, I love pimento cheese. Again, it's one of those things I don't make often because I'd like to spend as much time as possible without having to ride the motorized cart.
Because it will get warm when we go to set this slice of bologna on it. That's good right there. Fuck it. You know what? Business expense. I bought so many gloves. Next, what you'll do is we'll take some dill pickle chips and we'll layer them on there real nice. Now, this is gonna give us a little bit of crunch. It's gonna give us, most importantly, acidity, because there's a lot of fat on this sandwich. From here, what we'll do is we'll take this and we will set it right on there.
I'm not sure why he put a glove on for pickles.
Boom. That looks pretty good, if you ask me. Next up, is you want some
But then used his naked hand for onions. Like, did he get a micro cut?
sliced red onions. Now, if you want to saute those up, you can. I kind of like the crunchy effect that you get. Next up, these are some tomatoes out of the garden. I have to specifically mention they're from my garden. Tax write-off. Hey, that's a cheat code. Next up, need some lettuce. This ain't the lettuce that makes you shit yourself either. Then, take your top bun.
But I like that lettuce.
Look at that. That right there is holy
I'll have to find a way to unhinge my jaw to eat it.
moly donut shop sandwich. You know what I'm saying? That's a beast of a sandwich right there. And you're probably thinking, Joe, you forgot the bacon. Yeah, I did. What I do here is cut it. I like putting it on there afterwards because I'll usually cut this sandwich in half, and now I can get it on there perfectly, instead of cutting it after it's on there and getting some weird looking piece of a bacon. Now, I'm gonna forewarn you, it is a messy sandwich. So, you know, that might be too thick of a piece. Now, Jamil's, they use 9 ounces of bologna. That's a lot of bologna, so that's about what we got on here.
Dude, I'd have a heart attack after all that for sure.
Shit. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Alright, that's enough of that. All right, we'll do this.
Today on Ballistic Barbecue, we're going to be making a deep dish pizza on El Patron.
Okay. Whatever. I think I've already gauged this one.
Quick shout out and a thank you to Lone Star Grills for sponsoring this video. So when I first decided I wanted to do this pizza video on El Patron, originally I was going to do a very traditional style Chicago pizza, deep dish pizza, which I've done on this channel before. It's been a while since I've done a video on it, but I've done Chicago deep dish before. As I started kind of preparing for the video, I was watching some videos, mainly on restaurants in Chicago, and I saw a video, pizzeria called Millie's, which is getting a lot of acclaim right now. They've won some awards, and they're doing their Chicago pizza different than everybody else's. They've kind of changed the game, and it was inspiring to me. I decided I'm not doing a copycat of Millie's, but I'm going to do a pizza like they're doing it. And it just was amazing. And instead of the crust, rising all the way to the top of the pan, like your traditional Chicago deep dish, they're laying the cheese out in a way to where that mozzarella becomes part of the crust. They call it a caramelized cheese crust. So, it's sort of, you'll see when I build a pizza, but it just looked amazing. So I decided right then and there I was going to do that. I wanted to do a Millie style pizza. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the dough I made, and I got this recipe from All Recipes. Here's the dough. All right, we're going to kick this off with 1 1/8 cup of warm water. It's about 110 degrees. And I don't know where they got that 1/8 cup of water from, but going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. And to that, we're adding 1.
I just go with instant. I don't have the patience.
And 1/2 teaspoons of white sugar. We just stir this up. Now I'm just going to leave this alone for 5 to 10 minutes or so. I want this yeast to fully dissolve.
This is pasta.
All right, we can see that yeast is all foamy now. It's eating up that sugar. I have my stand mixer set up here, and I'm going to add 3 cups of all-purpose flour.
All right, again, this is a nitpick, but as someone who has made, I don't know, probably close to 100 pizza videos, 00 flour, my friend. It's a little more expensive, but it produces a far, far, far superior product.
One half cup of corn oil, 1 1/2 teaspoons of kosher salt, and that foamy yeast mixture. So we're going to turn the mixer on, and we're going to knead this for about 2 minutes. And I want the dough.
And fomenting even if you do the 110, whatever, I recommend fomenting your beer, your yeast in beer. That's just me.
To stick together, but still be a little bit tacky. All right, this is looking good. Yeah, you can see it's all holding together, but it's still a little bit sticky. Right here, I have a buttered bowl, and I'm going to take that dough,
butter bowl,
just form it into a nice ball. Doesn't have to be perfect.
No!
If there's
No! It must be perfect. It must be more perfect than Sydney Sweeney's tits.
any cracks or anything. I just want to make sure I seal those up. All right, there we are. Now what I'm going to do is cover this with some plastic wrap and a towel. I'm going to place this just on the counter in my kitchen. It's warm in there, and I want this to double in size. It's going to be about 6 hours. After that 6 hours, this is going into the fridge until you see me again making this pizza. Next thing I did was the sauce. The sauce was just a sauce that I learned a long time ago, and I've done a few tweaks here and there, but very basic, very simple sauce. Kicking this off with 2 28-ounce cans
If you do not puree this, I swear to God.
of peeled whole tomato.
I hate, with a capital H, almost as much as I hate Bernie Sanders, I hate chunky pizza sauce. Pasta sauce we can talk about.
Number 1. Bloop. And number 2. And to that, 1 tablespoon dried oregano, 1 teaspoon kosher salt.
As someone who has filmed outside in the past, I fucking hate... one of the things I always hated was right when I clicked record, then some asshole decided to start yard work.
Now, this is the reason why I have the gloves. Just gonna crush these tomatoes up, get this oregano and that salt mixed in really good. And this isn't it, there are more ingredients to come. And if you don't want to use your hands, you could always use like a wooden spoon or something, but I think this is the best way to do it is with your hands. Right, that's looking good. What I'm going to do now is get this into the house and put it on the stovetop, medium-high heat, and I'm going to simmer this for 40 to 50 minutes. And what I want to do is thicken up this sauce. I want to get rid of most of the water that's in here. But as I said, there are more ingredients to come. All right, so here's that sauce. It's all reduced and a lot thicker than it was. Still a little warm, so it'll be a little heavier as it cools. But you can see it's kind of just keeping its shape here when I push it around with a spatula. Here I have 4 cloves of garlic that I've minced, and this is about a teaspoon of fresh basil that I've chopped, just kind of coarsely. Get that dumped in there. Mix this around. And that garlic and everything will cook as the pizza's baking. And there we are, ready to go. So this is going to go in the refrigerator, and before I do the cook, I'll bring it out and let it come up to room temperature. And here is that dough now. It's doubled in size. And I'll tell you right now, after I remove the dough, I'm going to save it. I'll weigh it and I'll put the amount that I removed right up here. It may make it easier for some of you if you're planning on trying this yourselves at home. So I'm going to lay down a little olive oil here.
Yeah, my dough recipe, oh God, I usually do 6-ounce balls, so it's usually 42 ounces, which is, I'm terrible at math. Whatever 42 divided by 16 is. And it's about 3 pounds of dough, I think, give or take. Whatever. But yeah, if I'm doing deep dish, I'm maybe only making 2 pizzas. If I'm doing big pizzas, it's 3.
Dough rolled out onto the pan. So more or less just...
And if I'm doing a big ass deep dish, then yeah, it's 3 pounds of dough for 1 pie.
kind of punching it down into the pan right now. This dough feels really good. Yeah, so I can tell, I mean, there is enough to kind of crawl up the walls here. So I'm going to just go ahead and press it down, press it into the pan like I would if I were making a normal, you know, Chicago deep dish pizza. And then what I'm going to do is remove that wall of dough that I've created. I haven't seen too many people do this.
Did he get divorced? Or did he just lose his wedding ring and decided, fuck it?
Style as far as non-restaurant creators. I mean, honestly, that's the first time I saw it was that guy that owns Millie's, and I wish I didn't write down his name, but I'll put it up here. I mean, you need to watch this video. It's inspiring. Right, use a knife here.
What the hell?
There we go. This very well may be enough dough to make a second pizza, which makes me happy. And that's looking really good now. And they're very particular about, they're basically slapping the dough to get everything nice and flat, to get that bottom portion of the crust flat. And the logic is, if there's a thick part and it rises more, all the sauce and everything, the toppings are going to run to one side of the pan. So here's what it's looking like so far. I'm very happy with the way this looks and feels here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a chopstick to kind of dock the pizza, because it looks like they're docking it, which basically you're poking little holes.
You know, you could buy a pizza roller for even though I keep forgetting to use it in my videos, you could buy one of them for like $5 on Amazon.
It just helps keep the crust even and crisp. Just going to pop little holes in it here, like that. What I'm going to do now is just cover this and let it sit for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to top it, pop it in El Patron. All right, we are going to build this pizza now, and just like the traditional Chicago style.
Okay, I'm sorry, but shouldn't everything that goes on a pizza be pre-cooked?
Deep dish pizza, they start with the cheese. Slices of mozzarella, and this is what they're using at Millie's, the square slices of mozzarella cheese.
He's lying on them.
As you can see, I'm just laying them down so they come up the wall like you would with the dough on the traditional Chicago pizza. And I'd love to hear from Chicagoans out there about what you think about this pizza, because like I said,
I know that there's been a war between New York and Chicago over pizza. And by the way, I'm sorry, New York, your pizza is not pizza. It's wet triangular bread. Oh, the slice is so big. Yeah, it can't even fucking stand up on its own.
Millie's is in Chicago.
Even though I actually like New York pizza.
Well,
actually, no. New York is a little too thin for me and not crispy enough. I'm sorry, but when your pizza's floppier than Jack Nicholson's dick.
And they're getting a lot of praise right now. But I'm guessing a lot of the purists probably aren't digging on this, but I think there's always room, because there were so many restaurants out there making that traditional style. So I think a little bit of a change sometimes is not a bad thing. Sometimes. Now for grins, I'm laying down some slices of provolone.
This will be the pizza you eat if you want to make sure on a long flight you have no chance of pooping.
Basically what I'm doing is making a meat and cheese lover's pizza, and I'm a meat and cheese lover. There.
Hey, look, I love you, Ballistic Barbecue, but nobody loves cheese more than Cooking with Jack. That motherfucker will put 2,000 milligrams in sodium on cheese alone.
Now, on your traditional Chicago pizza, at this point, they'd be laying down like sausage, like raw sausage and the other toppings, and then covering it with sauce. We're doing, again, like Millie's, we're going to lay down some sauce now, like you would a traditional pizza, on the dough. They're still laying the cheese down first, but they're putting the sauce down next.
That's okay. All right, that's
and they're not
smooth enough for me.
going really, really heavy, like that traditional Chicago style pizza. And obviously that sauce recipe that I used makes enough for a few pies. Now the fun part. So I'm laying down, this is uncured pepperoni. Lay some of this down. Then this is that pepperoni that cups and gives you little bowls of goodness, which I love. And Millie's on their pepperoni pizzas, they go heavy on the pepperoni, and it's the cupping kind, and that's my favorite kind. So it's going to be like meat on meat on meat here. Hope you guys are okay with
Isn't that the title of a gay porno?
that. And
Welcome to Meat on Meat on Meat 7!
he was describing, you know, that crust, that caramelized cheese crust thing is like when you're making a grilled cheese sandwich, you know, and you get that those burnt drippings that turn into just something magic. That's what we're looking for. Now we're going to find some room to put some, this is just mild Italian sausage. Kind of fill the meat gaps with this. And this is cooked. I cooked this up this morning. Just basically made little kind of meatballs out of them. Some Italian dry
I wouldn't have even bothered doing that.
seasoning.
If I was doing this, my only thing would be, well, one, that's nowhere near enough sausage. Two, I'd either do crumbles and just sprinkle it all over, or I'd do links and slice them and treat them like the pepperonis.
Some grated Parmesan cheese.
Oh, dude, you had me. Dude. Take 5 minutes and grate your... Less than that. 2 minutes. And grate your own parm, buddy. Please.
Throw down some baby basil leaves, some fresh, just baby basil. And there we are. We're ready to cook.
I mean, you put all this work in and you won't take the 2 minutes for it to do you the parm?
And here's the setup. I'm using El Patron. As you can see, that front pizza door is open and both upper dampers are closed. And by keeping both of those upper dampers closed, the heat's going to rise up and pool up in the upper inside ceiling of the El Patron directly over the pizza. We got the pizza stone in place, as well as that fire management basket, which is loaded up with some hickory splits. You can see the lower dampers are fully open. Get the pizza in. And right now the pit's running full rate, 500 degrees.
Aren't pizzas traditionally cooked somewhere between, oh, I don't know, 700 and 1,000 degrees? Like, believe it or not, pizza's cooked in the one place that you could actually still smelt iron.
Been about 26 minutes and it's looking good. It's looking done.
26 minutes? Well, Grandma will be drunk by the time the pizza comes out.
Look at that. It's got those nice cheese, kind of burnt cheese edges that I was looking for. Those pepperonis, the cupping pepperonis have cupped. Let's get it out of this oven. At Millie's, they remove the pizza from the pan, and I know a lot of the places in Chicago don't do that, but they do, because that'll prevent the steam from softening the crust. This is the one part that I'm very nervous about. So obviously I'm wearing my gloves with the insulated cotton underneath. And they said you don't want to wait too long.
Dude, have you heard of hot pads?
Or else it'll stick. You know, the cheese will kind of bond with the pan.
Yeah, no shit. You put cheese right up against the goddamn edge of the fucking pan. Big shock. It bonded.
But he also adds that it makes all the difference. I'm optimistic here, I'm optimistic, but I've learned the hard way about being overly optimistic. Let's see if I can, this is the thing, like I said, I'm so nervous about this.
losing it. You're losing it, Boyo. No, you got it, Boyo.
Whoa.
There you go, Boyo.
There we have it. Oh my gosh. And this right here, my friends, is what I was hoping for. That beautiful caramelized cheese on the edge. This smells so good.
Oh, I'd eat the shit out of that.
Again, not trying to be overly optimistic. I haven't tasted it yet, but we'll see what happens. But so far, so good.
Can I be that guy's loser friend who just lives on his couch and eats his delicious food?
This thing rocks. I actually just received the Pizza Stone for the El Patron maybe a month ago, and I've been playing with it, and I'm having a lot of fun. This is the first pan pizza I've done in the El Patron. I've been just doing kind of traditional pizzas, but I wanted to do something a little bit out of the box for my first El Patron pizza. Okay, this is rested. It's ready to try out. I have 2 pizza cutting options. This one, which is very cool, but I think it's designed mainly for the regular flat pizzas.
Oh God, I bought one of those damn things. I've got to sharpen mine. Mine came in duller than fucking goddamn Helen Mirren's cunt.
And then this, which is boring, but I'm afraid that if I use this, it'll kind of knock the beautiful cheese wall down. So I'm going to try to start in the center and come to the outside edge here. Don't seem to work. Ooh. Getting a really good cheese pull. Look at that. And that crust on the bottom is gorgeous. And everything is set. So, I mean, I was able to kind of tilt this on its side without losing everything. I'm nervous inside. Now it's almost like that adrenaline dump of relief. Let's try this out. I'm really happy right now. So happy. So the crust, it's that very familiar Chicago style crust, the way it tastes. And then, all the toppings are just coming together. The cheese, there's so much cheese, and it's so melted, so hot. Those fresh tomato flavor, I mean, I'm saying fresh, they're canned, but it's a good Italian brand.
Let's do this.
We're taking it back to one of my favorite meals. Let's get into this $10 bourbon chicken that reminds me of my childhood days being in the food court at the mall with my friends. First, you're going to season your chicken thighs with...
Oh God, the mall bourbon chicken. Fuck. I always hated the food court at the mall. I don't know, maybe I'm a snob, but I always went to the restaurant in the mall. Food court is, I don't know, just way too expansive for me to ever eat comfortably. Ugh.
Onion powder, garlic powder, and all-purpose. Place them on a hot griddle. You want to cook these for about 7 minutes on each side or until they get that perfect char. You want them to be charred on both sides. When it looks like this, you're going to take them off, let it rest, and then cut them into strips. You're going to add just a drop of roasted garlic paste, mix that in with some butter, and then you're going to go in with half a cup of soy sauce, add half a cup of hoisin sauce, a little bourbon, and then we're going to go in with our dark brown sugar and some ground ginger. Add some extra brown sugar if you like it sweet. Bring that to a bubbling simmer, and then you're going to add your chicken back in there and let that cook for about 10 minutes. Now, when I tell you this chicken was so tender and delicious, you got... All right, y'all, we're taking it...
Well, you use chicken thighs. God, I hope it's tender. Underrated
I've been
sandwich.
cooking for over 30 years, and somehow I'd never heard of the chopped cheese. It's one of New York's most famous sandwiches, and it was invented in a corner store. No restaurant, no chef, a bodega. Now there's some debate over who actually came up.
Ah, yes, the famous New York bodega, which will be rendered extinct by that socialist piece of crap, Zoran Mondami. Good job, New York. You voted well.
With it, but more on that in a bit. First, I've got a few chef techniques to make it even better, and maybe even better than the bodegas. Sound good? Let's cook. I'm going to start with a large yellow onion. 2 medium-sized onions, they should work pretty well. And you can certainly use a red, white, or sweet. Whatever you've got on hand will be great, promise. All I'm looking to do is small to medium-sized dice it. Once it's done, it's time to caramelize it on my flat top. And yeah, I realize I'm a bit spoiled here because I have a built-in. But I know so many of you have a Blackstone these days, and if not, a griddle or just a plain old cast iron skillet works perfectly. No need to overcome.
God damn it. Get a goddamn cast. Okay, everyone should have at least one cast iron pan. I recommend a 10 or 12-inch skillet. Trust me. It's like having a girlfriend that's up for everything.
Complicate things. Once you're up to medium high heat, or about 350 degrees F, add on 1 to 2 tablespoons of neutral flavored cooking oil.
It's like when her friend comes over and she says, oh, she just broke up with her boyfriend. Let's make her feel better.
Butter, or better yet,
that's
beef
the
tallow.
cast iron.
Then add on the onions, give them a gentle season of salt, and the goal here is to...
Well, this is the thing. She broke up with her fiance. But if she's going to run for president in 2 years, she has to be married. There is no way America... First off, she has a million different other hurdles, but it'd be like if I ran for president. I'm not married. There's no way I'm getting elected.
Caramelize them up, which will take probably about 20 minutes or so. I like to spread them out just to cover more surface area and then come back every few minutes to give them a little stir. And I can't tell you just how much of a difference caramelizing onions will make to the overall flavor of this sandwich. It's a really simple technique, but well worth the squeeze. Just a bit more time, good food can become great. Okay, while these cook, let's be a good steward of our time and knock out just a bit more meat, starting with some tomatoes. I'm a big fan of using Romas just simply because it's a solid tomato flavor-wise that you can use even in the off-season. But if you're in season, go get yourself a vine ripe. I'm just looking to thinly slice these, nothing more. Next up, I'm going to thinly slice some iceberg lettuce, but we need to remove the core first. So just give it a little hit on the cutting board, and
that's one thing I don't get. He does this all the time. Why do I want to remove the core? It keeps the fucking lettuce together.
Simply pull it out. From there, I'm going to slice it in half, then in half again, and then it's time to get your chop on. The goal is for it to simply...
And you still have a bit of core there.
Be shredded lettuce. That's it. You've got this, my friends. Now, let's go back and check out the onions and give them a little stir. First and foremost, it smells ridiculous in here. And how can it not?
No, we live in a simulation, DeJuice, is if J.D. Vance runs against the frozen embryo or the frozen egg cat lady, AOC, and AOC wins, if the single cat lady wins, then we're in a simulation.
Caramelized onions in...
Then we are the playthings of aliens that are just controlling us. We do not exist. We are the Sims for someone else.
Beef tallow. Just going to give it a little...
And now that I figured that out, they'll probably reset the game.
We'll try. Yep, already delicious. They're looking really good, and they're almost done. But first, let's bring out the beef. I've got 3 pounds of freshly ground chuck, which is 80 to 20 lean to fat ratio. I wouldn't recommend going any higher lean to fat than maybe 85-15.
But if I had to guess, she's probably gearing up for a Senate run, which I think she will ultimately lose.
Now you can certainly grind your own beef if that's for you, and you can check out my cut of beef combo that I use on my Oklahoma onion burger. But to me, the most important aspect of this beef is that it is freshly ground. Don't get the prepackaged super packed in beef, and I'll show you why in a second. But first, what I want,
because that was packed that day by somebody. The package you previously showed was packed by God knows who, God knows when, by God knows what. Vacuum sealed and sent off from God knows where.
What I'm going to do is make little mounds of beef that I'm going to spread out on a sheet tray lined with, you guessed it, parchment paper. 15 years in the restaurants,
and
ruined
this is
me.
the thing.
Parchment.
I'm sure that AOC is a she has to be nice because she's a fucking idiot.
For everything, but of course.
But can you imagine her in a 1v1 debate with JD Vance, or even worse, Marco Rubio? Like, it would be the most lopsided debate victory ever. I've already done my analysis. She would lose every single state that Kamala Harris won by 5 points or less. Like, the socialist candidate lost in the Democratic primary in Wisconsin, but I think that seat's going to flip red. Or stay red, I forget. I don't know the governor of Wisconsin's political party. I don't think El Sayed is going to win in November. Because the problem is Kyle Kulinski and all these guys, they think the primary is like, oh my God, they won. That's it. We did it. We won. No, you have another election in November.
Doing this on a platter is absolutely fine. I know this seems a little weird, but it will be huge in getting a really good sear on the beef. More Maillard means more umami, which in return...
We're talking politics on this channel. Trying to make this one the Big Tent channel.
...means more flavor. It's little techniques like this that always...
Hey, socialists need to eat too. They need to know how to properly make their gruel.
Make meals worth remembering, and this only takes 2 to 3 minutes to do. That's it. And on another note, I'll most likely only use 2 pounds of this because, well, it's a lot of beef. And this is why you use freshly ground, because if it's packed in those pre-packages, you can't really spread it out and break it into nice little chunks like this. Okay, the prep is done, and let's go check out the onions, and yes, this is what you want. These should be at least this brown when you're doing it at home. And I promise you can absolutely pull this off, my friends.
Now, the chopped cheese really is a true New York bodega sandwich, and it's most closely tied to Harlem, and a spot called Haji's, which is also known as Blue Sky Deli. But like a lot of great New York food, the story's a bit complex. And at the end of the day, it was meant to be simple, affordable, and filling, and pure New York. All right, let's get to the beef.
Okay, at this stage, let's get all those delicious caramelized onions off the flat top and into a bowl to...
Don't worry, institutions like this will be a thing of the past. Zoran Mamdani will see to it.
Set to the side. Don't put it too far though, because we're actually going to need it in just a second. Now,
because again, one of his big people in his administration is a seize the means of production girl.
To carefully add about 1 pound of those loose little mounds of beef right onto the flat.
And that's the other thing. New York is unique because what happens there can affect the rest of the country. And I think by November, New York is going to be in fucking shambles. Remember, Mamdani had to pull out every trick in the deck. He had to play every ace, every king, every queen, every jack, and 2 of the 10s to balance the budget for this year. What happens next year? You honestly think your stupid pied-à-terre tax or whatever the fuck it is going to generate dick? You know what they're going to do? They're just going to sell their homes or surrender their homes back to the bank, and they're going to leave. That's what I do. Hell, I'd sell it to the city of New York and be like, hey, give me an offer. It's yours now. Let a bunch of fucking illegal immigrants trash it.
At top. Once it's on there, you're going to want to immediately smash it down using 2 spatulas. Now, you don't have to go all Hulk style here. You just want to flatten it out to cover...
And keep in mind, much like every other fucking online socialist, Zoran is a rich kid. His parents are ultra wealthy. Like Emma Vigeland, like AOC, like Hassan Piker, like every single one of them. The only one that might not be is Mike of the Humanist Report. All right, I have got to quit talking politics. Jesus Christ.
Much surface area as possible so that you can get a deeper brown across more of the beef. It's just as simple as that. After it's flat, we want to immediately season it, and what you choose to season it with, to me anyways, is really important. Salt and pepper will absolutely work, but to keep that Latino neighborhood influence, adobo or sazon, or even a combo of both just makes this sandwich superb.
I'd go with adobo. Anyway, I gotta pee. I'll be right back. All right.
Also, I've seen chicken bouillon powder as an option, and I can attest it's dang tasty. Pre-packets, sorry, aren't for me. I just want to know exactly what's in everything I cook and eat, so I've got some homemade versions that are literally identical to store-bought and so easy to make. You can grab on my site at Billy.
Oh, any spice blend is just super fucking easy and usually a lot cheaper to make at home. Usually there's a difference. Now, look, I certainly use pre-made spice mixes. My local grocery store has some in-store ones that I quite enjoy. There are barbecue champions that swear by just buying some that you like. Johnny Trigg was one. I don't know if he's still with us. But he's like, yeah, I spent, decades making my own, and then eventually I just realized, fuck it, I'll just buy them.
Greasy duck.
But I don't know which is cheaper, finding the recipe you like or buying every goddamn rub on the market and then hope to Christ they don't discontinue it. That's why I'm on the make it yourself camp, because they can never discontinue that until the day you die.
At this point, I'm going to season it with about 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of adobo and follow it up with about 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of sazon. To me, this combo just makes this ridiculous, and I think once you taste it, you're going to agree. You season it at this point because the beef is spread thin, and all those flavors will season the whole surface evenly. I'm just going to let the beef sit here for about 2.5 to 3 minutes. It'll cook 2/3 of the way just sitting here. Then, using a wooden spoon, spatula, or a griddle scraper, you want to chop up and break up the beef. There really isn't any artwork to this, and if you've ever been to an O'Charlie's or even gotten a Philly made to order, you've seen cooks do this. And sorry to say, I think I may like this more than a Philly. We'll see. The end goal is crispy small bits and bigger, juicier chunks. It's a combo. We aren't looking to make taco meat here. Now, I like to bring in the onions and add about 1/2 of them just when the beef is almost completely done. That extra juice from the beef just helps revive the onions up. And at this stage, one last taste.
It's delicious, by the way. There is no better way to become a better cook than trying food at as many stages as possible. When I was in the restaurant industry, we had spoons everywhere because tasting was encouraged and you wanted
Well, yeah, how the fuck do you know if something's going right?
to do it because it will make you a better chef. Plus, it is without question a more enjoyable way to enjoy cooking because you get to eat. All right, we're almost done, but first, let's talk about the bread.
The classic is a soft hero roll like this, but French bread, a hoagie, or sub bun, or even a bolillo bread will all work.
And if you're in a real pinch or you're poor, hot dog buns will work.
I'm just going to slice it in half, and then I want to brush with a little mayo on each side to help brown and toast it up. Now, you can make your own mayo or just use Duke's. For all the NYCers watching, this is a down south delicacy that is well worth your time.
Yeah, I love Duke's.
Time to
It took
pay it.
forever for Duke's to get here, but now that it's here, you ain't leaving Duke's. I'm your #1 fan. I'm Kathy Bates, and you're Paul Sheldon.
Attention to. Promise.
And the only reason I said the actress's name is I cannot remember the character that she plays off the top of my head.
Just
God, what is her? Oh, this is going to drive me nuts. It's one of my favorite movies. The book sucks.
place down the bread, cut side down near the beef, and toast it up.
Because I quit reading Misery because while the plot between Paul and the psycho nurse Annie Wilkes is great, there's literally another novel in the novel. And it's literally Paul writing Misery's Return. By the way, who the fuck names their child Misery? But anyway, yeah, you have to read this stupid fucking 19th century romance novel. I don't care. And by the way, the movie Crippling is way more brutal in the movie than it is in the book. Oh, she cripples him in the book. But it's way more brutal in the goddamn movie.
And in the meantime, let's wrap up the beef. We're going to add down 3 to 4 American cheese slices.
Well, the movie Misery, it was based on the novel Misery by Stephen King. And the book sucks. One of these things I always hate is, oh, the book is better. No, not always. Misery is a prime fucking example.
And yep, that's the classic cheese, and to me it's...
Another one is Jaws. The book Jaws sucks. I know a lot of people liked it, but it sucked in my world. Characters made no sense. The movie is much better.
Always the best.
The Shawshank Redemption, a novella wrote by Stephen King. The movie is better. Okay, let me paraphrase. The novella is great. The movie is a fucking masterpiece.
Best cheese to use with ground beef. I said what I said. Let it stand for a minute or two, and once...
And then, of course, The Shining is the novel is a masterpiece. The Kubrick movie is a masterpiece, but it's its own thing. It deviates so much from the book. I literally have, this is Kubrick Shining, this is King Shining. And King's miniseries Shining was trash.
It starts to melt down like this, you chop it in just like you did before. This will sort of emulsify everything together, from the beef fat to the onion juices to the seasoning to those little browned up bits, and make things so creamy and so delicious. Now, let's have a look at the bread, and yeah, mayo is...
And what's funny is if it wasn't for one man, Shawshank may have been just a forgotten movie of history, because when it came out, it bombed at the box office because it went up against Forrest Gump, and everybody went to go see Forrest Gump. Which, I'm sorry, I know a lot of people love that movie, but I fucking hate that movie. It has one of the most toxic relationships in movie history. The story is literally about how a woman has cocked a mentally disabled man for decades. Anyway, it would have been forgotten, but there was one man that really liked the movie, and because it bombed, he got to play it for very, very cheap. Ted Turner. One thing I always liked about him, if he liked a movie, he'd shove that shit on TNT every chance he fucking got. And because he was the boss, he could do it whenever the fuck he wanted.
Always the winner on toasting up bread. Don't skip the Dukes. Alright, it smells just ridiculous in here. It's done. But before we eat, here's how you plate and serve up a chopped cheese. Just a bit more mayo.
You know, I started to read the novel and I quit just because I had other shit going on. And I've never seen the movie. I've heard it's good. One of these days I'll sit down and watch it.
The toasted buns. Then a little thin strip of ketchup.
Like, if it wasn't for Ted Turner, another one of my favorite horror movies would have just been probably lost to time, and that's In the Mouth of Madness.
Next, add that chopped cheesy beefy goodness to the bottom bun. Be sure to keep it compact and don't spread it too thin.
Oh, God. And Sam Neill's dead, too. Fuck. That's when you know you're getting old. Fucking more and more people in the movies you enjoyed are dead.
Just as an FYI, you'll use about half the beef for a roll this size. Then a few slices of tomatoes, a quick season of salt and pepper, and lastly, some shredded lettuce. And to keep this thing legit, wrap it up tight in foil and let it rest for 1 to 2 minutes. This will help sort of steam everything and warm it all up into seriously one insane sandwich, and I cannot wait for you all to try this. And now the moment of truth. A slice, and yeah, come on now. Traditionally, this is served up with some chips, which you can just pick up, or you can go all in and make your own, which I've got an awesome homemade recipe for if you want to go that route. Next, hit it with a few pickle spears, and then for the drinks. A Coke, an Arizona iced tea, or a Snapple, all are good on this.
Unless you're planning to booze that shit up.
And if some of that Middle Eastern bodega stuff got you interested, I've got a homemade hummus recipe that will absolutely change the way you feel.
Trust me, Mandami will take every single one of those Middle Eastern bodegas, and they're gonna be gone. Alright, done with that. Alright, we'll do this. How to make every fast food secret sauce.
Every fast food restaurant has that one secret sauce they keep under lock and key. But today, we're leaking those recipes.
Well, the Chick-fil-A sauce is pretty much widely available.
Oh, don't fall. Now, when it comes to famous fast food sauces, there are 5 that are absolutely S tier, simply the best of the best. Wingstop Ranch, In-N-Out Spread, Raising Cane Sauce, Chick-fil-A sauce, and Chipotle's Honey Vinaigrette. But if you disagree or just want to learn how to make any of these other sauces, then...
Chipotle has salad dressing? I've eaten there like 5,000 times.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with a distant relative you really only see once a year. They miss you. But now to start us off with the best of the best when it comes to ranch, Wingstop. Now, this one is really interesting because I see a lot of people get it kinda right, but also get it kinda wrong. And there's a really good explanation for it. It's not a very complex recipe. It's really just mayonnaise, buttermilk, and ranch seasoning. But the problem is most people don't use the right ones. That's the problem. For our mayonnaise, most people probably use something like this, which is just your standard, delicious, house regular mayonnaise. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not the stuff that they use at Wingstop. And if you want it to taste like Wingstop, then you're gonna need heavy-duty mayonnaise. Now, first off, you're probably thinking, man, this is ridiculous. I'm not spending $45 on a giant tub of mayonnaise. You'd be wrong, it was like $8. It's pretty good value. But really the thing that makes this different from your standard, typical, regular mayonnaise is that it is thicker, there's more egg yolks, and it emulsifies better. So this is going to be why it tastes different than your regular store-bought mayonnaise. Plus, I'm making like 4 other sauces today, and like half of them also use mayonnaise, so now I have this mayonnaise. My wife asked me where we're gonna put it. I'm still figuring that out. Now, the second thing that people get wrong is your buttermilk. Most people will use a reduced fat buttermilk because it, generally speaking, is more common. Example A, I couldn't find any full fat buttermilk, and I really couldn't justify buying a giant gallon size of buttermilk because that would for sure go bad. So we're using reduced fat buttermilk, but if you can find it, you want full fat buttermilk. And for the last bit of the puzzle that people generally speaking get wrong, the ranch packet. Now, some people will tell you to use the restaurant style ranch packet. It's not correct, it's wrong. Some people will also tell you to just use the regular dip ranch packet, and that's also wrong. What you need is this guy, which was also purchased from the restaurant supply store. This guy is exactly what they use in Wingstop. It is going to give you the exact speckle, the exact flavor, the exact taste, and this whole thing was like $4. So it's a little more expensive, technically speaking. Like, it cost more than these smaller ones, but value per gram, like this is more value. This is less per ounce, this is more per ounce. So if you find this and you're just gonna make a bunch of ranch, just get...
Well, I can't gain access to a restaurant supply store because I don't have a restaurant. Can you give us something that us normies can use, please?
This guy. Now, the standard ratio for Wingstop Ranch is 1 gallon of mayonnaise, 1 gallon of buttermilk, and 2 packets of the ranch seasoning. 180 grams of this. We're obviously not gonna make 2 gallons of ranch, so we just scaled it down. Starting off with a cup of our heavy-duty mayonnaise. Ooh, that is attractive. Followed by a cup of our buttermilk, and then we'll go in with about 11 grams of that ranch seasoning. And this is all it is. This is Wingstop Ranch. Sorry, there's a delivery driver at my door. Awkward. Anyways, and this is really all it is. All we need to do is just whisk this all together, make sure it is nice and incorporated.
No, he said restaurant supply store. There is a difference. Costco is not. Definitely Costco's not. Sam's Club a little bit more. But no, Costco definitely is not a restaurant supply store. There are restaurant supply store, and to gain membership, you actually have to be a restaurant owner or food truck owner. You have to be a commercial food person to get a membership.
And there we have our Wingstop Ranch. And the last thing that you want to do if you really want it to taste like the restaurant, and realistically speaking, you should do this for all of the sauces, is let them sit in the fridge overnight. When you're getting your sauce at the restaurant,
fine. This is Restaurant Depot. Okay? Sign up. You select your preferred store. You will need to present your business license or IRS letter to show you are the owner of your business or nonprofit. I cannot get membership to this because I do not own a restaurant. This is what he is talking about. And this is the one and only mistake that Jake's dim-witted cult members are going to make that I'm going to correct. That's what he's talking about. Normies cannot get this.
it's rare that it's ever made right then and there. Typically it's made at least the day before, if not farther back. So it has time for all those flavors to come together and sit in the fridge, and that's what you want to do. Oh yeah, that's Wingstop Ranch. And this part is totally optional. You definitely don't have to do this, but I find that if you're making any sort of sauce, it really helps to have a squeeze bottle on hand, because then it makes distributing.
Oh yeah, always have a condiment bottle, squeeze bottle, whatever you want to call it. I always just buy the cheap ones from Walmart. I use them once, throw them away.
And using the sauce.
Yes, I'm contributing to Plastic Island, but whatever. I'll be dead soon. I don't give a fuck.
It's much more realistic. It's not going to just like sit in a jar or in a container in the back of your fridge until you recognize that it's there. 6 months, 12 years, 39, whatever time format you want to talk about. You're not going to waste it. It's going to be there, readily available. You grab it, you squeeze, you use, and it's done. How high can I go? How high can I go? Oh.
This is why your kind lost World War II.
Every fast food restaurant has that one secret sauce they keep under lock and key. But today, we're leaking. Next up, we have a go-to burger sauce, the In-N-Out spread. Now, I have to be honest with you because I almost didn't do In-N-Out spread. Instead, I almost did Big Mac sauce because I think that Big Mac sauce is probably a little bit more iconic.
Oh my God, but everyone and their fucking mom, including me, has made that goddamn sauce.
In-N-Out sauce is more of like if you're in California, or like now it's California adjacent, but like, you know what I mean? It's not like, not everybody knows about it. But I think that like the spread, like there's just something about spread. And I figured like if you're in a place where you don't have an In-N-Out, this is a perfect opportunity for me to share In-N-Out with somebody else that can't have it. So Big Mac sauce was a consideration here, but no, Big Mac sauce was a consideration, but we landed on.
Hey, leave the kitty alone. Except if he starts wanting to eat your shit.
On In-N-Out spread. Now for our spread, it starts with a cup and a third.
Oh, well. I suppose if you're trying to cook food, a fucking cat. Fuck it.
Of mayonnaise. So we're gonna get back in this nice hunkin' jar. Sickness. And then a third cup. Followed.
Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness.
By a third cup of ketchup. Ooh, which I'm running out of.
Yeah, of course you did, because you bought Smash Kitchen ketchup. You pretentious fucker.
Hold, please. And I'm back. And something you want to keep in mind when you're recreating any recipe like this, the ingredients that you might have might look the same, but are not technically the same.
By the way, blindfold me and tell me the difference between Heinz ketchup and Great Value ketchup. Gun to my head, couldn't do it.
Like our mayonnaise, for instance, there's a different taste to it, there's a different texture to it versus the one
I literally say, tell my family I love them.
that you would typically buy at the grocery store. Your ketchup is the same thing. If you're using a different type of ketchup than they use, it's a little bit harder to nail down exactly. If it's not
Who gives a fuck? They probably put MSG in it too so they don't have to use. You have to report how much salt is in something. You don't have to report how much MSG is in it.
exactly right, then try a different brand.
And if it's under a certain amount, you don't have to report it.
Try a different brand of that until you find something that works right. A tablespoon of Dijon, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire, sure. A 4th cup of...
I've used enough ketchup to know I cannot taste the difference. Seriously, I cannot taste the difference.
Sweet pickle relish, 2 teaspoons of distilled white vinegar, 3 teaspoons of sugar, and then you're just going to salt it to taste because, again, different things here.
And if you really want to know something to juice, the store brand that Target sells, Walmart sells, is probably the same goddamn ketchup in the Heinz bottle.
Have different levels of salt in them,
whatever.
Especially like your ketchup. So taste it and adjust.
Your money, do whatever you want.
Just as you go. Well, not as you go. Taste it and adjust after you mix it all together. Duh. I spilled. Oh, that's delightful. And now as I'm whisking this together, I'm also noticing that mine is a little bit on the thicker side and In-N-Out spread is typically a little bit thinner. Generally speaking, I would prefer a thicker sauce because it doesn't just like sploosh everywhere. But in order to stay accurate, we are going to thin it out with just a touch of water. We'll start with about a teaspoon. Let's go 2 teaspoons and we'll see where that gets us because we can always add more water if we need to. Just a splash more. And we are dialed. Delicious. And I present to you In-N-Out spread. Just need to bottle this all up, cap it up, and you should always label any of your containers, especially with the date. I should be labeling with the date, but I'm not labeling with the date because it just doesn't look as cool for the video. And now for the chicken sauce that beats literally all chicken sauce, Raising Cane's. Now this is one that I have made in the past and gotten sort of wrong. So basically in my original recipe, I was using fresh garlic cloves.
For me, yeah, I guess I'm partial to, but I don't know. Like I said, I've tasted every ketchup and have never noticed a difference.
So we're just grate it up, and in reality, I probably should have been using garlic powder. My mistake. There's also like tons of different variations of this recipe online, and some use lemon pepper, some use Cajun seasoning, some use vinegar. Like there's tons of different ways to make this sauce, but I'm pretty sure that the way I'm gonna show you how to make it today is going to be the absolute closest. Starting off with 1 1/3 cup of our heavy-duty mayonnaise. Oh man. Oh, darn it. Then we have 2/3 cup of ketchup, 2.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire, 3 teaspoons of garlic powder.
Dude, you couldn't even be bothered to rinse it off.
And then right about a teaspoon of fresh cracked black pepper. Now this sauce, similar to the Wingstop Ranch, I would highly recommend you let sit at least overnight because of that garlic powder. You want to give it time to fully meld into our sauce. But if you're like me and you can't wait, then I give you Raising Cane sauce. I'm telling you, if you don't already have a bunch of plastic squeeze bottles laying around the house, you gotta get some because squeeze bottles are just the best. You just make like one.
Yeah, like I said, I get the cheap disposable ones from Walmart.
Sauce a month, it makes using sauce just so much better. So if you want to get a new bottle like this, I've got it linked down below, but you can also just like reuse an old ketchup bottle. Like it works. I love them a lot. Just close this up. Next up is Chick-fil-A sauce, which honestly, I don't ever really get. I almost always just get sweet and spicy sriracha, but my wife.
The reason I don't buy like real good ones is because There's only so many times. I don't care the plastic vessel. There's only so many times you can use it. So I just figure, what the fuck? Get the cheap one for $1. And once it's done, just chuck it in the trash.
Wife told me that if I didn't do Chick-fil-A sauce, she would be sad. And a sad pregnant wife is not good for anybody. While I move everything into place.
No, a sad pregnant wife, you're fucked, my friend. You are fucked. F-U-C-K-E-D, fucked.
So I can make this. How's your day? What's going on? How's your week? Anything cool going on this weekend? Tell me about it. How can we celebrate you? How can we support you? We're all here for you. Starting off in our giant jar of mayonnaise, 1 1/4 cup. 1/2 cup of barbecue sauce, which is where things can get a little bit different because barbecue sauces differ greatly depending on the brand.
Does this fucker own Smash Kitchen or something? I am legitimately asking.
And in the type, the closest I could find.
Because if he does, then good for him.
To the information is it's a hickory type of barbecue sauce, and so use that if you can find it. I'm using this one because I like this one, so whatever makes you happy. 3 tablespoons of yellow mustard, 1 tablespoon of distilled.
I don't know, you seem to like Smash Kitchen products a little too much. Methinks you be behind it. And hell, I don't blame you. You're in fucking Walmart, boy.
White vinegar, 1/4 cup of sugar, and I know, it's a lot. 1/4 teaspoon of dry mustard powder, and then you're just gonna salt to taste. And again, this is definitely one you wanna let sit overnight, if not a couple days before you use it, because you want that sugar to dissolve, you want that mustard powder to dissolve, you want it to all really become one big cohesive sauce. And to do that, you just need time in the fridge. You need a whisk. Now, the color of mine is a little bit darker than the actual Chick-fil-A sauce that you get in the packets, or are they packets or are they the little cups? The cups. However, that's most likely due to me using a different barbecue sauce, and that's one that's just gonna be really tricky because they don't use a pre-packaged, pre-labeled barbecue sauce to make theirs, so it's kind of difficult to track down something that's exactly the same. But I tell you what, this pretty darn close. Very, very close. If I were to eat that blindfolded, I'd be like, oh, it's Chick-fil-A sauce. It's really good. And for our final sauce today, one that I hold very near and dear to my heart, because if you've been here long enough, you know that this was the first video of mine to ever go viral on YouTube, like fully went to the moon. Chipotle's honey vinaigrette. Now for this recipe, you don't actually need a bowl, but you do need an immersion blender. But you, technically speaking, don't need an immersion blender. If you have a regular blender or one of those cup blenders, that wing would work well too. That thing would work well too. Or if you wanted to, you could just do this by hand, but then you'll need to chop up all these chipotles in adobo really, 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 really fine, as well as you'd have to whisk it because you're going to be emulsifying it. So it's gonna be a lot more arm workout, but it's 100% doable. But because I have an immersion blender, I'm gonna be doing it in this cup. 1/3 cup of red wine vinegar, 1/4 cup of honey. I should have coated the inside of this with oil because now it's just sticking. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. There we go. 1/4 cup of chipotles in adobo. I like using the pre-diced chipotles in adobo because it's a lot easier to work with and actually measure versus being like 1 chipotle pepper, 2, but then like sometimes they're really tiny and sometimes they're really big. So I find that to be a little bit more consistent. 1/3 cup of water, 3/4 cup of neutral oil, 2 teaspoons of salt, 3/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and then 1/2 teaspoon of dried Mexican oregano. Got it. And then now all we need to do is just carefully immerse all this together. And then we'll just go ahead and detach this before we give it a taste, because last time I licked it while I was plugged in, I got yelled at on the internet. It's magnificent. Let's see if I can do this one without the funnel. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Not a drop. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I really hope that you learned something. Here's a
I might steal some of that at some point. All right.
Loves this easy game day appetizer. We're starting off with our pizza sauce in our 9x13, and once we have those cans cleaned, we are going to come in with 2 blocks of softened cream cheese right into our pan with that pizza sauce. We're going to add a lot of our Italian seasoning right in there with our cream cheese and our pizza.
What the fuck is this? You didn't cube up the cream cheese. You didn't... Oh, this is...
Pizza sauce, and then it's time to mix this all together. It should be relatively easy to mix because that cream cheese is nice and soft. Once that's fully mixed, we're gonna grab our mozzarella cheese and we're gonna sprinkle a generous layer of cheese on top of this entire pan. Now I have my pepperonis, and we're gonna add our pepperonis all over our pan so that they're evenly distributed and everyone gets a pepperoni. I'm adding a little bit of canned mushrooms on top as well.
Oh my god, I have to pee again. This video caused it. All right, let's see
But
where
this is
goes.
optional. Once you have your mushrooms on there, we're gonna pop this in the oven at 375 for about 20 minutes. And then you have the most
Okay, I had 20 seconds to look at her face. I don't know if she's cute or not.
delicious pizza dip for game day. I hope you give this a try and enjoy. Look at that cheese pool, yum. Everyone loves this easy game day appetizer. We're starting.
Let's just say I'd have done it different. Okay, done. All right, this is... Come on, you piece of shit. The best chicken parm ever.
Describe to you what chicken parm is. Observe. To me, this is the perfect chicken parmesan, or parmigiano, whatever you want to call it. The way that it's breaded, the type of breading, how it's fried, the specific combination of cheeses, and more importantly, we're really focusing on an easy sauce to make, but a maxed out flavor version of the tomato sauce. This is the best chicken parm you'll probably ever make in your entire life. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So with that being said, let's make this, shall we? Chicken parm. You might have guessed that we were gonna start with chicken. Good guess. You're wrong. No, I'm just kidding, it is chicken. 2 pounds of chicken breast. You could theoretically use thigh, and I'm actually more preferential to thigh, but let's be real. People are used to the texture of breast, and I think if it's done well, it's actually quite nice because you have a leaner piece of meat and you have all this fat on top of it, which, big fan of that. So, you'll take each breast. If they have excess fat on them like this, you can leave it on, you can cut it off if you want. I'll remove it. Is you have 2 options when you butterfly these. You can either cut all the way through, and you have 2 pieces of chicken, which you'll then flatten, or you can effectively butterfly down the center. So you run your knife along the center of the chicken, open it up, kind of like a book, like that. Now, you could stop there and have real big chicken. If that's the kind of chicken parm you like, then stop there and pound it out. Now, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna cut all the way through the chicken so you get more individual pieces. This will serve more people a lot easier. If you have these sort of stragglers, you can remove them and freeze them. And you'll just repeat that with each chicken breast. Now, when you pound this out, you can either use plastic wrap or you can use parchment paper. It really doesn't matter. Just pick what you got. I prefer plastic wrap because I like microplastics. It's a joke. So you have a layer of plastic wrap on the bottom and a layer of plastic wrap on the top. You'll take a mallet. Oh, you don't have a mallet, what do? This can also be a mallet. It basically is. Point is, you want to pound this out until it's even in thickness, right? Because if you think about it, every chicken breast kind of tapers down. This part is thinner than this part, so make this as thin as this. The goal is even thickness throughout and about a grand total thickness of a little over a 1/4 inch thick. We'll call it 1/3 of an inch. So then when you take this off, you'll carefully remove the plastic wrap. I wouldn't fully remove this.
And then when you put it to the pan, you go, don't you rip, you fucker, don't you fucking rip.
Right, I would kind of stop there so that you can then take your piece of chicken out. It's okay if it's got a little bit of a hole in it when you bread it, that will get covered up. And then repeat that with the rest of your chicken. It ain't that difficult, y'all, all right? Just don't think about your ex, because then you'll f this up. Just go, nice and steady. Nice and steady. In some cases, I would say take your aggression out on it, but in this case, the chicken breast can only take so much, okay? Brining your chicken.
Yeah, it's not tip steak. If anybody's wondering, that's the cut they use to make cube steak out of.
Wow. This is something that I think a lot of people skip. It's kind of gone out of fashion. People cure their chicken. In this case, if you have time to let your chicken sit in salt, curing it is not the move, right? You would only cure something if you want the exterior to be tacky and dry, you want a good Maillard. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to make it juicy, and the goal here is to make it salty throughout from edge to the center. So, to do that, bowl 1 quart of water, 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, and then just whisk that until the salt's totally dissolved. There might be like 1 or 2 granules in the bottom, it's fine. If there's a ton of salt in the bottom, which there shouldn't be, keep whisking. Now, to this bowl, we're gonna add 1 whole lemon. You're going to slice your lemon. You can make it as thin as you want. These are, I don't know, this is like, what, a 1/4 inch roughly? I love 1/4 inch. You guys will hear me say that a lot because I don't really know measurements that well. Take your lemon slices and add that to your bowl, along with 4 cloves of garlic. You can throw them in whole. These are peeled. You could also give them a light little smack with the flat side of your knife just to bruise them, let that flavor out a little more. Pop those in. A teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and 2 teaspoons of black peppercorns. Last, and to me this is actually funny enough the most important part, these you will taste the most in your brine, and that is 2 fresh sprigs of rosemary. You're gonna wanna kind of crumple them up in your hand and just squeeze them, This is the part where you think about your ex, right? Ugh, I hate, no, I'm just kidding. If you smell that afterwards, you can smell all the essential oils coming out of this. That will contribute to your brine in a very big way. You don't need to do anything else at this point. We're just gonna put the chicken in. We have our pounded chicken and just gently lay those in 1 at a time. Don't just toss them in there. The goal is you want a little bit of a layer of brine in between each piece of chicken. So that's why I'm kind of like gently laying them in. You don't really want them to adhere. You kind of want them to settle on top of each other so that not only is there brine on top of each one, but there's brine in between each one. You can give it a light agitation.
I do it a different way. I just pour the marinade into the bag and kind of move the bag around, making sure everything gets coated.
Make sure they're all submerged. And then at that point, more plastic. Woo! People yell at me all the time for using plastic. They're like, you're hurting the environment. I'm like, guys, I don't have very many alternatives. Oh, well, what about the environmentally friendly stuff? I would love to use it if it f***ing worked. Anyway, cover that with plastic wrap. Set this in your fridge.
Me, I don't give a shit. Fuck the earth. The dinosaurs had it for hundreds of millions of years, and then boom. Asteroid wiped those fuckers out.
Overnight. If you don't have time for overnight, a minimum of 3 to 4 hours, but ideally overnight. Sauce time. This is maybe the most crucial part of the whole recipe because if your sauce is shit, your chicken parm is shit. It just is what it is. You can use lower quality chicken. You could use organic, not organic, and it's probably still gonna be good. But if your sauce sucks, there ain't nothing that's gonna cover that up because that's what covers the chicken. So, guanciale. You don't have guanciale? Use bacon. 3 ounces. And I want you to cut this into small little cubes.
Actually, if you're gonna go for guanciale, the best substitute is pancetta. But if you don't have pancetta or guanciale, then bacon's fine.
It doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna chop this very finely after it's cooked. If you do wanna cut it nicely, you'll start by cutting 1/4 inch thick slices. You want perfect cubes? You already cut it a 1/4 inch one way into a slice, right? I want you to cut 1/4 inch segments to create perfect batons of pork. We have 1/4 inch batons. Guess what? Oh my God, I'm so scared of a 1/4 inch. We're gonna cut a 1/4 inch again, the other way. And you'll get beautiful little 1/4 inch cubes. You could also literally just run your knife through it. I really don't care. You can stack these with the rest of your pork. We have a medium sauce pot set over medium heat. 2.5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. So we have all of our guanciale going in. Then I want you to just lightly coat that in the olive oil. And you're gonna kind of teeter-totter between medium and medium-low. We don't wanna get too high.
Add pepper, my friend.
We want all the fat to render from this and then let it get crispy. So I'm gonna lower my heat just a little. I'm on medium-low. I'm gonna let this fat render for like 2 to 4 minutes, stirring occasionally. Okay, so the majority of the fat has rendered out. You can tell because now it's starting to brown a little bit. I've increased the heat to medium. I'm gonna keep cooking this for another 2-3 minutes or until it's really crispy and brown. Stirring occasionally, by the way. Yeah. Oh, when it looks like that, when you're looking at it and it looks like, oh, are these a bunch of ruby gems that I could sell for an exorbitant inflated price? They're there. They are there. Look, the whole point is you wanna go as brown and crispy as possible because we're gonna chop these up and it's gonna go back into the sauce. If it's still got some moisture in it, I would let it continue to cook. You want crispy little crumblies. If this spoon wasn't so hot, I would put these in my mouth. You can use a slotted spoon or you can strain this through a fine mesh strainer. It's really up to you. I don't really have the patience to deal with a fine mesh strainer right now, so I'm just gonna scoop them, drain them of their oil, and then place them in a bowl lined with a paper towel so that they drain properly. You know, you could theoretically like leave 1 or 2 of these in here. No one's gonna know. It's, what's the term? It's, yeah, rustic. Yeah, rustic. I love that term, rustic. It's like another way to say I was lazy, but sounds nice. Now that's out. We're gonna let this cool a little bit. While this is cooling, heat back on to medium. We're gonna throw in 5 cloves of thinly sliced garlic. We're just gonna kind of saute that lightly, just until fragrant. I don't want any browning on this. I just want it barely fragrant. So I'm starting to smell it, like 15-20 seconds. Now, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of gochujang. What the hell does that have to do with chicken parm? It's my recipe. Mine. I just think it adds a special depth of flavor that you don't get from tomato paste. It almost adds a tomatoey sweetness, but it also adds a depth of flavor that tomato paste literally would never have. So,
gochujang is, well, it's delicious.
We're gonna stir that into the oil, and we're gonna fry that in the oil. Just let it cook down just a wee bit, just until it darkens slightly, which will take about 1-2 minutes. Yeah, that smells insane. At this stage, we're gonna add a pinch of sugar, a little bit of salt to taste, we'll probably add more later, and a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Stir that in, and finally, 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomato. I like to add like a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of water to the container that the tomato is in just to get it rinsed out. That'll reduce out anyway.
Except that 32-ounce container was filled to the fucking brim.
Now stir that together, increase the heat to medium, and I want that to come to a nice...
So you didn't bother to mention that it was a can of whole tomatoes that you pureed. And people accuse me of leaving steps out.
Light simmer. Okay, so once this is simmering, a little bundle of fresh thyme. You're gonna add that in and just let that simmer in there. You're gonna let this reduce, stirring occasionally for like 5 minutes. We don't need it super thick. I just want a little more intensity out of the flavor. Now, while that's reducing though, you can take your crispy guanciale. You're gonna chop this as finely as you can. You're gonna do that with a knife, or you can put it in a blender, and you're just gonna make it as fine as possible. That should be enough. You don't want this to turn into a paste. Oh wow, this did an extremely good job. Obviously a knife will not get it this fine, but the goal is very fine. I want this to become a part of the sauce. I don't really want people to detect the crunch per se. It creates just an extra depth of meaty flavor that wouldn't be there otherwise. You'll know this is reduced when it really clings to your spoon like this. So it's thickened slightly. We're gonna pick out our thyme. It's done what it needed to do. And then you're gonna stir in your finely chopped or blitzed pork. Technically your sauce is done. First, give it a taste. If it needs a little salt, this is the time you're gonna add it. So season it to taste with salt. You can also add a little black pepper if you want. And now you have a beautiful, porky, salty sauce for your chicken parm. Now, While you're breading this, you're gonna wanna preheat your oil. So frying these, you can deep fry these or you can do it in like a large skillet. We have a 12-inch deep cast iron skillet. That works well. You can also use a big pot, fill it with oil. It's up to you. We're gonna add just enough high heat oil, vegetable oil, avocado oil,
Well, yeah, because, I mean, Cisco is supplying most of the restaurants in the country.
a ½ inch up. You could go a little more. You could go halfway up. I think this is plenty. Now you're gonna heat that over medium heat till it reaches around 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is a 3-tier breading setup. Why? Because we're doing panko. We're not doing breadcrumb. Well, I guess panko is a type of breadcrumb. It's not Italian style breadcrumbs. Panko is the better breadcrumb for chicken parm, period, end of story. I won't spend any time arguing it. Feel free to argue it in the comments. It is the best, crunchiest outer exterior option.
I like panko.
Will stay crunchy for longer after being sauced. Make sense? So 2 cups of all-purpose flour into a bowl for the first station. We're actually gonna season this flour with 2 teaspoons of salt and a teaspoon of fresh ground black pepper. You don't have to do that, and you won't normally see that in a panko breadcrumb setup, right? Or a katsu style breading setup, but I wanna make sure that this chicken is really nicely seasoned because we have a pretty acidic sauce going on it. You could theoretically add other seasonings. You could add Italian seasonings. You could add thyme, oregano, MSG. You could add Sichuan peppercorn. That could be fun. Now you're gonna add your flour onto a quarter sheet tray or onto a plate. That's our first layer. For the second, 4 eggs and 2 tablespoons of water. And then you're just gonna whisk those together until fully homogeneous. Pour that onto a plate or onto a quarter sheet. And then the last layer is 2 to 3 cups of the best panko breadcrumbs you can find. This matters because there are brands out there that make panko that just don't hit right. This is a nice one. These are a little bit more hard. You can also go for that more sort of fluffy, flossier one. Just depends on the look you're going for. Now, before we bread this, we have our finished brine chicken here. Take your chicken out, drain it in the sink, and lightly rinse it off with water. You don't want any of that brine left on the chicken, otherwise it'll end up too salty. So we have your brine chicken. Very easy. You have a wet hand and you have a dry hand. First wet hand into the dry, choose your flour. You'll flip, coat both sides, kind of agitate that a little bit to make sure it's in every little crevice. And then you're going to shake off the excess. Then go into the egg. Again, same thing, both sides. Wet hand, flip, make sure it's fully coated. Then into the panko. Coat that thoroughly. Press it in to the chicken. Make sure it fully adheres. I don't want any bald spots on it, so just take your time. You don't have that many pieces of chicken, so there's no reason to rush here. And that is a beautifully breaded piece of chicken right there. Place that onto a prepared sheet tray, and then just repeat with every piece of chicken. So, very simply, so you're gonna take your chicken and lay it away from you. And you're going to swirl the pan around, create constant movement. We're sitting at
That is one thing that I still to this day struggle with. If the rarities that I do shit like this is the wet hand, dry hand, because I'm so left hand dominant. I instinctively want to use my left hand for everything.
at medium heat, 350 Fahrenheit, till it's like a light golden brown.
Oh, you could use cornflakes. Just put them in a food processor and hit go for 5 seconds.
And the internal temperature is 165 Fahrenheit. Now, once you start,
or put them in put cornflakes in a plastic bag and smash them with a rolling pin.
To get a little bit of color, you're gonna take 1 sprig of rosemary and toss that in. Might sputter a little, don't get scared. After about 2 to 3 minutes, you can see the edges are starting to brown, but the top's not quite received a crust yet, so we're gonna carefully flip that over and let that fry on the other side. Keep that movement going for another 2 to 3 minutes. So, at this stage, we'll take our rosemary out. It's done. You can see that it's a beautiful golden brown. It's crispy. I'm gonna lay that on our sheet tray, lined with a wire rack, and repeat with the rest of your chicken. Okay, we're essentially at the assembly broil stage. Cheese, very, very, very important. We have 3 kinds of cheese.
All right, screw it. This is where I'm gonna end this. Good night, everybody.